Hello, Las Vegas. This is Rolando Larraz on Face the Tribune. If you have nothing to worry about, if you have nothing to hide, you can face the Tribune. But if not, be careful because the Tribune, Las Vegas Tribune, will face you. So let's talk. With me today, my new co-host, Mr. Clark Philly. Hello, Clark.
Good afternoon.
How was your weekend?
Very busy.
Busy?
Swamped.
Really? Gee, I thought I was the only person that is busy in the weekends, but I guess now you're busy too.
Yeah.
But I would like to, before we start working on the show today, I would like to show a little respect to the victims of the terrorist attack in France by having 1 minute of silence in honor of those who, and then we're going to talk about what's happening over there and what President Obama has said this morning in coast to coast radio addressing of the event. So let me have 1 minute of silence in honor of those that die in France. Thank you, and God bless all. So now everybody is doubling the security. Now everybody is creating new system to avoid. Why don't they do that before it happened? It was coming. It was expected to happen. Isn't it right, Clark?
Well, when you get overrun by people coming across your borders and so forth, I don't know how in the world, if somebody wants to do something, I don't know how you prevent it. There's only so much you can do, you know? Like an airplane. Well, everyone's going to get on an airplane, so they go through security, so you can check and check and check and take their shoes off and all that stuff. But how do you check somebody going in and out of, what was it, a concert or something? I mean, if people want to do something, I think they're going to be able to do it. There's just too much out there. There's too much activity. How do you ever stop that? What you have to do is nip it in the bud, not allow these people to just migrate around the world. I mean, there should be borders. They should have their country. If they have a problem in their country, maybe the world can do something to help straighten out a country. I don't know, but migrating all over the place and taking your problems into another country, that's not going to help. You have to nip it in the bud. You have to, if you have ISIS is causing this problem, go get ISIS. Just wipe them out. You know, the way Trump wants to do it or something, your bombs, whatever, just wipe them out. If there's collateral damage, well, that's the price we pay for having, fanatics in the world. That's just part of it. We
So
have
if-
to take care of it.
if
We can't
we-
just let everybody else take the problems.
So if we have fanatic, we have to act fanatic.
Well,
You know, as simple as
if you
that.
call taking care of a fanatic yourself, I don't really kind of classify it as that. You're exterminating a fanatic. You're
Yeah,
an exterminator.
yeah.
It's like a bug. And if you have to exterminate termites or cockroaches or whatever you're doing, that's part of it. They're no better than a cockroach, in my opinion. Cutting off people's heads and everything and trying to make some state. They're desert rats is what they are. They have nothing. If they didn't have oil, they would be thieves, desert thieves. That's what the Arabs all were before they found oil. They would rob people traveling through the desert. That's what they were, desert thieves.
Oh.
They
I
had
didn't
no
know that.
they had no commerce, no anything. I mean, I'm going back thousands of years, but I mean, you know,
That was before my time.
yeah. Well, it's just I was around then, but I wasn't too cognizant of the desert thieves. I didn't spend much time in the desert.
Oh God. So, but
You
anyway,
need leadership, and you need, I think, a world order, if you will, where you have countries that we can rely upon to a certain extent, like France. We should be able to get some help from them after what happened, and Germany and England, and our normal allies. Get them on the same page and make a concerted effort to do whatever we need to do to exterminate these ISIS. We know who they are, we know where they are, but we have a leader in this country who's not a leader. He's a rebel rouser, so he's not going to work. He has no clue what to do, none, zero. So we need a leader that will go take care of it, like a Reagan in his day, or what have you. Somebody that released, he got the hostages released just before he got into office because the people over there in Iran didn't want anything to do with it.
and
To do with him because they knew he was going to come after him.
yeah, I think
And here you got Obama doing a deal with Iran, whatever the hell that deal is, and he doesn't even get the hostages released. I mean, what kind of guy is this? This is the worst type of leader ever.
I don't know. Now he was talking on television. Teresa. Oh. He was talking in TV today and for about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, taking questions from calls from the questions from the media. I hear the phone ringing and I said taking calls.
What was it, Turkey? Is that where he was at?
Yeah, and that there's some kind of meeting with all the nations or whatever. And is that working okay? No? Okay. So I don't know, but anyway, going back to the United States again, what is new in the political world? What is new in I sent an email to Donald Trump asking to set up a telephone call.
Oh, yeah?
I said later on if you wanted to have a time where you can come over and we got a little gathering for you over here, and people can come over and meet you, and I'm waiting for an answer now, so I
I don't know what kind of coordination, if any, is even possible through that Munoz guy that's supposed to be a campaign, whatever.
director.
Trump. Yeah,
Everybody like titles.
but what does he do? What's going on? I've gone on the internet a couple times trying to find out what's scheduled, if anything, and I don't find anything. So I don't know what's going on. Trump kind of takes care of himself on that front, I guess, because he's such a media magnet that
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
walk
he
into his
is.
car,
He
he
is.
attracts 10,000 people. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But, they're making a big deal out of what he said about Carson, and we got all these pundits who supposedly used to be intelligent, but you got Mark Levin bitching about what Trump said about Carson, and I don't get it. I mean, Trump and Carson are competitors for a nomination of the Republican Party presidential candidate. Why in the hell, if a guy wrote something in a book and you want to point it out to somebody that he's a pathological whatever, why is that off limits all of a sudden? It's certainly not off limits when Hillary Clinton's calling Bush Hitler and stuff like that. I mean, where is it on the other side?
Yeah, but two wrongs don't make one right.
But
You know.
what's wrong with it? I don't understand why.
Well, I tell you, I think, and I realize that they all running for the same position. They competing with each other right now. They don't even competing with Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or
Right.
O'Malley or I think it's another guy, Pataki. Pataki used to be a governor or somewhere. I don't see them, but I always believe then if the candidate will talk about the candidate himself, tell the people what you're going to do, why do you think you are the better. Forget about the next guy. Forget about the guy standing next to you. Forget about all that. You have to tell the voters, the people in this country right now, is what are you going to do? Stop all that baby
But
thing.
do you think the media is not going to ask Trump about a question about Carson? Of course they are. They're instigating.
And they
That's
don't
what they
have
do.
to answer. It's simple as
And
that.
the media's going to say he's dodging the question.
No.
They're going to turn it around.
So
and spin
believe
it
me,
and
if they
whatever.
will take care of that, people will realize what kind of game the mainstream media
okay,
are
so
playing.
let 'em-
And they're catching up to that now.
Well, I hope so. Let him answer the question any way that Trump wants to answer the question.
They're
and be done
catching
with it.
up. They're catching
Well,
up very, very.
I hope in the next year we have probably a good 6 months, maybe to where we can really see some significant in the right direction on that. I hope, because the media is one of the major problems
You
in this
know,
country.
what happens is people have the tendency to believe or assume, and you know what happens when you assume. People have the tendency to assume that because I speak with an accent, I also think with an accent, and it's not true. It's not realistically. And when I tell people something, they look at me like, well, what do you know? What do you know? I can tell you what, because I'm out there, I'm in the public, I'm going to restaurants, I go to meetings, I go to different places where people made the comment, and half of the time I'm lucky enough then because I don't have a picture of myself in the paper, they don't know who I am. So I'm listening to people, and I can tell you people are completely different than what these politicians are treating the people nowadays. I told that to Dario Herrera a long time ago. Don't waste your money in advertising, attacking the other guy. People will see the difference. People will see that you have the right thing to say and you act in the right way. But if you're going to start attacking each other, it's wasting your money, wasting your airtime, wasting your ink, wasting everything else. And I believe that's what they all should be doing. Look, Chris Christie is doing that. He's not getting too involved, and I know he's but he did very, very good in the first, and the second, and the first debate. I believe they need to get some of the stuff. Look, what do you think? What so and so say? Well, I'm going to tell you. Then I'm going to be doing this for the country. I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to throw people out that don't belong here. I'm going to impose. It is very simple. It's like I'm writing in my column for Wednesday paper. It's very simple. The laws are there. Enforce the law. If you don't have the balls to enforce the law, then imitate the laws from Mexico. That's all. It's simple. You follow the law that Mexico has and implement it over here. And that way they cannot blame you for being radical or being racial or anything like that. You copy the immigration laws from Mexico and put it in effect over here.
That sounds good, that sounds right, but when you have the Liberal Party that's dramatically opposed to that, what do?
Do you know what
They're
the
not gonna
laws are?
enforce the laws.
You know what the law is in Mexico?
Yeah,
You know what it is? If you're not Mexican, you can do nothing over there.
right. And,
Just go there, visiting as a tour, invest, spend your money, and get out. That's all they do. You know, as simple as that. You cannot send your kid to school. You cannot use the health care.
well,
You
how
cannot.
do you come in here as an illegal alien and get health care? I don't even understand that. And how do you get free education?
And
How do
I tell
get
you,
food
I
stamps
believe
and
that
all
the-
that stuff.
I believe that a lot of women just jump the fence with the baby's head coming out of her
Yeah.
out of her belly, just to have the baby over here. And I don't think it is fair that they consider those people in America. You have to have at least 2 years in the country before you can be considered American.
Not if you're going to vote Democratic.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the criteria.
Oh,
And
I
that's the
see.
problem.
I see.
And that's why we're not going to have any laws in this country until we get this stuff straightened out. And my solution, which you don't want to hear about, is you got to get rid of the parties, because that's the problem. You're going to have parties that have to be elected, and this is where all the stuff comes from.
It's not that I don't want to hear about it. It's just the name. If it's not the party, it's the name. It's going to be something. Then
That's
we'll
what's
divide
dividing
the
us.
people.
That's what's dividing is the
Well,
party.
And
Gotta
if,
start
if
someplace.
we don't have a party, you're running for the same position I'm running.
Yeah.
And the people are still going to vote for you when they like you, and they don't vote,
Right. The
vote for
difference
me.
is when I get elected or you get elected, and let's say you go to Washington, D.C., you don't have somebody from a particular party. They're taking you out to lunch right off the bat to indoctrinate you
Oh, so
as the
you
way it's
mean-
going to be in Washington, D.C.
No, what you
You're not
mean
working
is-
for the people that elected you. You're working for us now.
You,
That's the
what you
difference.
mean is you have to eliminate the lobbyist.
Which comes through the parties.
Really?
The lobbyist goes to the parties, indoctrinates the parties, buys the parties, Republican and Democrat, and that's how it works. The parties are the corruption.
And the lobbyist.
Well, the lobbyists are the ones that, you can't blame the lobbyists, because if they can go to a party and corrupt them, they will. What you have to do is you have to boil
But
it
the
down.
lobbyists go directly to the candidate. They bypass the.
They're not going to get to a candidate without going through the party.
Really? You
Yeah,
think so?
absolutely not. No. No. I know for a fact that these junior senators and congressmen go there. They get taken out to lunch, is what I've heard, and they get indoctrinated. All the junior senators that were elected in those sweeping elections back in '08 or '10, whenever they happened, that's what that happened to all those young congressmen. They all got hijacked, got indoctrinated to the Washington way, and it was going to be their way, or you weren't going to get anything in Washington. You were going to have a miserable time. You wouldn't be appointed to any committees. You were not going to have any thing to say about anything. And how are you going to represent the people back in your state that elected you if the parties, the political parties in Washington, D.C., aren't going to let you accomplish anything? You're going to be spinning your wheels. and they will make damn sure you don't get anything done. That's what they do. And that's the corruption, and we have to snuff it out. And the only way you have to snuff it out wherever you find it, and what it is the parties. There's no question about it. And, hopefully with an election of somebody like Trump that's not buyable by any particular factions, that maybe when he is in power, he can do some things to straighten out the lobbyists, the special interest. I think he'll start there for sure. And maybe we can get something on the right track here in this country. But it's going to stop getting the special interest out of the politics.
Well, whatever it is, Clark, we're going to need to do something, my friend, because
the only thing we can hope for is the handwriting is becoming very visible.
yeah.
And maybe people will wake up, they'll start looking at it, and they'll start realizing that this isn't working. And all you have to do is look at other countries and see how it's working over there. And you can see corruption, and you can see disarray. I don't know what Europe's going to do. What's France going to do? I mean, what's going on? I think I've heard England is like, I don't know, I hear all kinds of numbers, but what's the percentage of Muslims living in England now? Have you heard a number on that, a percentage?
No.
That's pretty unbelievable, I think.
Really?
They've been allowing Muslims to just migrate in there for years. And now it's like, if you ever been around Detroit, you go over the border into Windsor, Canada, and
Yeah.
it's full of Muslims. Everywhere. It's Muslims, Muslims, Muslims. And it's incredible. And, they don't seem to be bombing people yet. But I'll tell you what, you don't know. You're going to get infiltrated by these people, and who knows? You have to snuff this caliphate stuff out that they talk about.
Well, this is the sacrifice that we all have to make in order to have the country saved. We cannot only think about one person. We have to think about the whole nation. And I believe as a sacrifice we have to make, so we don't have to worry about having. Look, I used to walk into the courthouse and I didn't have to go through the scanner. I didn't have to take my shoes off. Now I have to, and I don't mind doing it, because if I do it, if they do that to me, that they know me, I'm sure they're going to do that to everybody else. And I know when I'm there, I'm saved. I don't mind going through the headaches or the inconvenience of all that safety regulations if it's going to save everybody else. It's simple as that. And I believe that we need to do our part. And if you see a package or anything that look suspicious, if somebody put a suitcase in the floor and walk away, you call them and say, hey, you forgot your briefcase or your suitcase or whatever, and make sure that that person take this thing with him or her, whatever, because nowadays the terrorist is unisex, it's not limited only to males, we need to make sure that everybody is treated the same way. But
Well, when you allow hundreds of thousands of people into your country, and they're going to be undocumented, how are you going to prove who these Syrians are that Obama's letting in? There's no proof of who these people are.
No.
None whatsoever.
No,
Now,
I
how are
agree.
you going to be safe? You got this to contend with. Why? You have to nip it in the bud. You have to be sure that these people aren't coming into this country. And if they got a problem with their country, well, you know what? Geez, I hate to be, an isolationist, but that's your problem, not my problem. And if you come from a country like that, if that's where you're unfortunate enough to be born, well, try to do something about it. But don't come over here and ruin our lives. You know, it's a bad situation. But you're not going to have goody two shoes where they think the talk's going to take care of it. No, it's not. Could you talk the bombers out of the thing that they just did in Paris? No, it's not going to help.
I think
you need leadership that takes the bull by the horns.
The best way to do it is you kill them before they kill you.
There you go. That's
simple as that.
That's not politically correct. So what? It's correct.
Right.
Hell with the politics.
Right. You know, I'm not a politician, so I don't have to be politically correct. You know, and I believe that's what they need to be done. You know.
There's no doubt about it. It's the problem that we have where you're divisive, and some people are going to think opposite of you. That's just the way it is. And we have to do something about that. We have to teach common sense in school. Have you ever taken a common sense class in any school you ever went to? I never heard of one, but you need it. You need to be taught common sense.
No, I never had one.
Yeah, you can get taught English and arithmetic and all this other
and
stuff.
And common sense?
How about common sense?
Really?
CS 1, common sense 1. And you teach common sense. I went to some courses in college called logic. And I mean, that was a tough course because it wasn't logical. I mean, there's logic they're trying to teach you. I'm going, what the hell is this, you know? But why couldn't you be taught common sense? How many people don't have it? They don't have common sense. And it's sad. But that they've been indoctrinated. They've been brainwashed to think a particular way. And that's, you have to depend upon government, and government's got to get bigger and bigger and bigger to take care of more and more and more, and they can't keep up. It's not going to work. Government can't do that. Government really can't do much. If you be truthful about it, everything they touch turns to crap. Look at Obama, whatever. I hate to use the word, the Obama fiasco. Let's call it what it is. Okay? He's destroyed the health care in this country. He's made the price go through the roof, and now your deductions go up, your co-pays go up, you get less of what you're paying for, and
the service is terrible. Terrible. There's no one doctor that know anything about. You go there and you say, well, doctor, I got a pain in this nail. And he said, and what is that? A pain? It's a pain. How do you describe a pain? Something that hurt. Well, he said, what do you want me to? And then he said, what do you want me to do?
The whole system is set up to where they're going to pay doctors less and less and less. Because if they have a one-payer system, the one payer being the government, they're going to try to limit what they have to pay to a doctor. And what does that do? That limits the people that become doctors. And it just doesn't work. Nothing's going to work with the government at the helm. Nothing. Except maybe military. And the only reason that works is it's really not controlled by politicians. It's controlled by career military people that came up through the ranks. And that's the difference, I think. Now, Obama, commander-in-chief, whatever, he has some official input, but when push comes to shove, how much of that input really means anything to these generals and everything?
Yeah.
You know.
And then you have, I think what happened is all these emergency rooms and those clinics and all those what do you call those things that you go in the middle of the night?
Quick care?
Quick care. The doctors over there, they should be there no more than 5 years. No more than 5 years. Get the training, get the knowledge, the practice. It's almost like on the job.
Who says they're there more than 5 years?
Huh?
Are you saying they're there more than 5 years?
I think a lot of those people, they get used to a salary. Go open your own and get your own clientele and get your own everything, you know. You don't need, it's the same thing with the lawyers. They go to work at the district attorney and they get used to that paycheck and they get used to that secretary that you don't have to pay for. They get used to the telephone that you don't have to pay for. They get used to the investigator that they don't have to pay for. And why would they go anyplace else? They making almost $200,000 a year, clear. And when you open your own office, you gotta pay for the paralegal, you have to pay for the secretary, you gotta pay for the receptionist, you gotta pay the rent,
A lot of them can't handle it.
you gotta pay the rent, and I think it is.
Completely different.
It's different.
opposite
Let
of
me
what
tell
they
you,
used to.
I can compare that to kids nowadays. I don't know what the difference between kids and children. I assume children are little children.
Kids are goats, aren't they?
Anyway, you ask a 16 years old young man how much is 2 and 2, and they have to use the calculator. They cannot think for themselves. In my era, my time, you have to do, and we have calculators, by the way. It might not be in a form of a cell phone, it might not be in a form of a computer, but it was a calculator. Chiki, 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 chiki. Boom. They give you the amount. But we was not allowed to use the calculator to do mathematical.
You don't mean an adding machine, do you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was good for bookkeepers and stuff. I mean, how are you going to add up columns and columns of numbers unless you had an adding machine? I mean, they're definitely productive.
Well,
And
a calculator is the same
so are
thing.
Calculators, and so is all that.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to somebody using equipment that makes them more productive. The most important thing is knowing how to
After
use the
they
equipment.
learn how to add and deduct and multiply and divide in a normal
You should
way.
have a basic sense of the way things
Right.
work, sure, but that's tough to do that when you have teachers that have
They don't know how
tenure.
to.
They have tenure, so they're guaranteed their job whether they teach people or not. And then these teachers end up becoming administrators, and you end up with more administrators because it's a lot easier when you don't have to teach kids and be in classrooms and this and that. You just get your check, and all you do is administrate. That's a soft job,
Yeah.
and we're getting too soft. But
Are we?
every other country, I think, that's ever been a developed country, let's say, they've all fallen flat on their face, I think, from inside. They all blow up for whatever reason because they can't keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The bureaucracy can't become larger and larger and larger because sooner or later it has to implode. It can only do so much.
Well,
And you need to reboot. You need to start over sometimes.
yeah. I think we need a complete overhaul.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get some leadership, and I think we need to we need to get things back to the basics. We need to get out of Washington, D.C., and we need to control or return the control of the government and the functions of the government back to the towns and the local communities. And when you get for like teaching children, if you're raised in a farm town, you need to know about farming. If you're raised in New York City, you need to know about New York City stuff. So you can't have a one-size-fits-all type training throughout the country when one size doesn't fit all. So you need to restore things back to the towns and put government in charge of the local. And that's it. And the U.S. government should be in charge of the things that only the U.S. government can do, which is defense, perhaps some sort of airplane regulation, if you will, maybe roads, but there again, roads for the most part can be done locally, and I think a lot of the roads are done locally, especially not the interstate highways, but everything else. I can remember being in states, and when you pass over the border, the road quality changes. You can be coming from one state with a good road, and all of a sudden you go into the next state, and you're on almost a dirt road.
Yeah.
And that's what that's all about. But we do have an interstate system that's probably one of the nicest in the world. But it's all loaded with trucks now. I was just reading the other day that, and you can see, if you go to L.A. or California, anywhere around there, all the highways are all trucks. I mean, there might be, you see a car and you go, oh, there's a car. How about that? You know, it's unusual. You can see truck after truck after truck, especially Interstate 5, I think it is. It goes north and south in California.
And now
Trucks.
they try to build the 18-wheelers bigger, and the government, I believe it's the government, is doubting about it. They don't want to do any bigger than what they are.
You're going to get some pretty wild accidents. I mean,
Yeah.
the more weight, the more things that tend to get out of control, like those three trailers stuck together. Boy, I don't know. I guess it's okay on the open highway, but phew, you know, man, they're dangerous.
How are they going to stop in the truck stops? They're not going to have room for that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do some remodeling and widening of the turning areas or something. But you know, bigger. That's the problem with getting everything bigger and bigger and bigger. It just doesn't work at some point. You can only get so big. Can I help you? Goodbye. Nice talking to you. Anyways, I've been working all.
You recognize the voice?
No,
No?
they're Filipinos
Oh.
or Pakistanians or something. The telemarketers.
Yeah, they're not in the United States, so they're not Americans. You know, that's another thing. I think next president need to start bringing all those phone rooms back to the United States. You know, what do they call telephone? What do they call that? What do they call to those telemarketers? Phone rooms.
Phone
right?
rooms, yeah.
Phone rooms.
I don't know. There should be some new technology that kind of eliminates that possibility. I think the technology's there, but I don't think they've really zeroed in on it, because why? If you have a cell phone, why couldn't you program in there the numbers? And I think you do have the numbers that you want to accept. And if the person calling you is not in your system, you don't take the call. That's all.
I know, but that is a complete inconvenience for a lot of people. Why would I have to do that? What they need to do is stop the telemarketers.
How?
You cannot call people, period.
How do you enforce that if the people are in Philippines or in Pakistan? How are you
Because
going to enforce it?
let me tell you, for example, we have a new client. We never hear from that place, from that person before. They call here. We're not going to take that call.
It depends on the business you're in. I'm saying to cut down to where telemarketers are not calling as much as they're calling. I mean, Jesus, they have these automatic dialing machines that just dial and dial and dial and dial and dial, and they're going to get through to people. You have to make that to where that's not productive. Who's paying these telemarketers? How do they make money? They don't make much money when they call here. We try to tie them up as long as we can.
They get a salary plus commission.
And then you call them back, so you really harass them. You've had telemarketers on the phone for half a day. And how do they make any money? You tie them all up.
I know, and that's what I do. They call here, I call them back and keep them on the line. I tell them, yes, I am that person. Yes, I do this. Yes, I'm interested. And they think they are having a good day. Oh, my God, I got a live one.
Yeah.
And by the end of an hour conversation, I said, no, I'm not interested. So I don't understand why it got to be some kind of I don't
And how
care.
do these people from
Because
the,
they do not call, don't work.
what? Well, no, it doesn't, because you can't enforce it. How would that ever work? I know enough about technology to know what would work and what won't. It's impossible. You have satellites, all the communications. How are you ever going to block anything off? It has to be something at the receiving end that makes those calls.
And they use different numbers. I don't know how they get it. And now they're getting to be a little bit more annoying because, like, for example, I do a lot of work between 7 and 9:30 in the morning. A lot of phones, a lot of, I do a lot of things early in the morning before we open the office. And now I got people calling at 7:30 in the morning, selling Dr. Mario, I can make your sex life better. I don't have any complaint about my sex life. I have no sex life. I can complain about my sex life. But I don't. And then when you call them back to tell them that it's illegal to call anybody, solicit anything before 9 o'clock and after 8 o'clock at night. And
It's got to be 9 o'clock someplace. So I never have a drink before 5, and they would say, the alcoholic would say, well, it must be 5 someplace. That's their excuse. You can't control people.
really,
There's nothing you can pass that will work. That's what this government has to realize. They don't control the world, and when they pass something, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be enforceable. And you have to get to common sense. That's what I was going back to teach, common sense. They try to control everything. And you just have to relax, take a breath, and realize there's some things in the world are just going to get out of whack. I think that myself, they'll get out of whack for a while, and they'll come around again. Things will straighten itself out, because they can only go bad for so long, because there has to be an end to that too. Right?
yeah,
So,
I assume.
you know,
I assume that's the way it is. It's like, it's we get to the point where if we don't put things together, we don't work together, we're gonna go crazy. I don't see any
history
way.
certainly supports that.
Huh?
History certainly supports that everything comes to an end. And it can only go one way for so long, and it has to go around the other way. Because the French Revolution, all the kings got their heads cut off and things like that. The people rise up eventually. Or they just stop working, and they won't do anything. And then you got the problem the same way. You got devastation. So people have, they're humans, if you will.
And also
they
they
have
have
to have a reason for being around, or they'll just kill themselves, I guess.
And also they have to have an inspiration to do things the right way.
You have to have incentive.
Yeah.
Incentive.
Well, they get
Take
paid
away-
a salary,
you take the
and
incentive away.
they don't get
Well,
paid.
Bernie Sanders is going to tax you 92%, so you're going to work for 8%? I'm not going to work for 8%. Why would I? I just sit on the couch. To hell with it. If you go back, let's say the whole world comes to an end, the economy, Obama steals all the money, you don't have any money anymore, nothing. So are you going to starve to death? No, you're going to go to your local community, and if you have to, you'll raise your own goddamn vegetables. Somehow, you're going to feed yourself. So it's going to have to go back to the local communities. Local communities are going to have to take care of themselves. And the hell with the government. Go screw yourself. We work all our life and you take all our money? Well, we don't need you. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Go back to basics. That's where we all started from.
Yeah.
We didn't have all this shit. Last year we didn't have all this shit. And 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 40, so what?
No, definitely
You just
not.
reset,
Yeah.
reboot. Start
but
over.
I think
The government's just gotten out of control, and that's the natural progression of any government is it's going to get out of control. That's normal.
It's not unnormal. How can they not? They don't make anything. All they do is take. So eventually they're not going to have anybody left to take from. So there's going to be an end to that game.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
So
I agree with you. I think that's one thing we need to, but that comes with the education. That comes with the participation, your participation in the community affairs. But it's those people in charge of the community affairs, which is city council, county commissioners, law enforcement, all those people, if they cannot operate, if they cannot let those people that they are not the only people in charge, then we are in a bad shape. We need to find somebody that can tell the elected officials or the public officials, hey, hold on a minute, you cannot do that. You didn't bring this to a vote. You didn't bring this to the conference table to decide what we're going to do with that. So hold on a minute, you cannot do that. If we don't do that, because we are afraid to tell those people that we have give them the position to sit in that chair, then it is unreasonable. It's no need to have. Just give up. Okay, now you guys can be there. Let me give you a good example. Catherine Cortez Masto. I really like her. I like her very much. She's been in this radio show a few times. If she would have run for governor against Brian Sandoval, I would have supported her. I would have helped her. I would have done everything possible to have her elected to governor. Now, I cannot help her to get elected to the U.S. Senate. Why? Well, first of all, she is being baptized by Harry Reid. She's Harry Reid's goddaughter. Now, what is Harry Reid is going to teach her how to sit there for 30 years, the same way that Harry Reid was sitting in there for 30 years. They're going to learn how to control the rest of the world by using this connection and that connection and this part. No, I don't think I can.
That's why when I hear these politicians say that it's paramountly important that the person elected has to be a politician. They have to have experience on legislating and getting the two aisles together and this and that, Bullshit. Why can't you be a Ben Carson or a Donald Trump? Why do you have to know how to not do things?
Or Carol Lee.
Carol Lee. Right. Why do you have to know the bad way to do things? None of that's worked for centuries. That doesn't work. How's it been working out for us? Mm-hmm. Every time the government gets involved in health care or this or that, how's it working out? I hear that what was I just reading about this? Immigration. We were going to have a lot of the paperwork that used to be filled out, and I guess still does, used to be longhand immigration forms and this and that, right? Well, they were going to electronicate everything, if that's the right word. And they were going to put in this computer system. It was going to cost $500 million to get this computer system, right? Just like Obamacare. Well, what happened was, now it's projected to cost $3 billion, and it doesn't work. It will never work. If the government's involved in doing something, it won't work. That's a guarantee. That's the one good thing in life that you can always depend upon. Government will never work. Like Ronald Reagan used to say, the most best example of eternal life on this earth is a government program. It never ends.
Yeah, that's the way it is, my friend. I think it is very important, and we realize that, and we look at the two sizes of the coin. You cannot have both way, either one way or the other way. But even though they said there's three sizes to every story, yes, it can be many sizes to every story. Everybody has a different idea, a different mentality, a different plan, and I don't believe then everybody should be thinking the same way, but you don't have to force, you don't have to be forced to think like those people. We elected those people. We put them on that position, in that chair, in that desk, and it should not be forever. I believe then we need to emphasize what we've been saying for many, many years. You need to open your eyes, and you need to become aware of what the other people are doing, and you have the right to tell them, hey, hold on a minute, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. Well, I'm the city council. I say, no, you are my representative. You are the person who I put in there, so you have to listen to me before you make a decision. You're not allowed to make a decision, and that's the problem that it is. A lot of these people, they make the decision, they force you, and after they already got it already done, then they brought it into an open meeting. Well, we decide. Who are you to decide? And that's what people need to understand. They should not be allowed to decide. You are the one to be able to decide. That's the problem with a lot of these people. That's all it is.
Well, there's a lot of work to do, and I guess my feeling is what goes around comes around, and it can only go bad for so long.
Yeah.
But we might be at that point right now, because now the generations that are coming up now are not going to live as good as the past generations, and that's reached a position in this country that's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
Up till now, it was always better off. The newer generation was better off than the last, but that's not the case.
No. I disagree with you on that. I believe that dictatorship has been part of this country for a long, long time. If it wasn't that way, Harry Reid will not be in the Senate for 30 years. Whatever his first name is, Pepper, in Florida, was there for 52 years. I mean, how much more of a dictator can that be? It needs to be a term limit. If you cannot do something that somebody else can follow up later on, you don't need to be there the first time, second
this
time.
country had so many resources and stuff that it took this amount of time for us to not be able to provide for future generations as well as they were provided for previously. So the Peppers and the Reeds and so forth have now finally had their due. What they've done is now the chickens are coming home to roost. So
Yeah.
it takes a while for them to come home to roost. Now
Yeah.
they're coming home.
And
And we
it-
have to do something about it and
It's-
realize what the problem is.
It's like people say, well, because he's doing something good, why taking it off? No, if he's doing
Yeah.
something good, he can leave it there, go home, and the other person is intelligent enough to maintain that, then it is doing good. It's simple as that. You don't need to, because you are new in the job, you don't need to delete everything the other person did. You know, if it's working, then you should be being able to keep it.
Well, that's good, but the problem is nothing works, so you gotta start from fresh sometimes. I think you have to go back to the communities, get
Yeah.
rid of this big
That's what
government.
I'm saying.
Yep, you gotta
Yeah.
start over.
Anyway, this is time to say goodbye. Time to say thank you. Thank you for listening. And tomorrow will be another day on Paradise. Thank you, Clark, for being here. Thank you for.
Oh, are we gonna be
co-host.
someplace else tomorrow? Paradise? Where are we going?
Tomorrow will
said
be
to-
another day. This
In
is
paradise.
Paradise.
You said, this is paradise?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're gonna compare to another place, then it's worse. You know, it's no. I believe it's. But anyway,
All right, well, we'll see you back in paradise.
yeah. Thank you. Have a nice day. God bless you. God bless America.